Hi, and here we are with solving quadratic equations again. And as I promised at the end of the last video, if you saw that one, that we were going to do this bit separately, and we're going to look at the formula today. And obviously, I hope you're wearing your odd socks because it is Odd Sock Tuesday. I myself have a Smurf sock on one side and a Minion sock on the other, but I'm not going to say which way round that is. You can guess for yourself. Okay, so first of all, though, we're going to start off by looking at what we did last time, which is this. Basically, I want you to factorize these quadratic equations and thus solve them. And of course, as you'll notice, a is greater than 1. The coefficient of x squared on both sides is greater than 1. So that's a bit more fun, isn't it? So if you could pause the video, I'm going to go and actually swap the socks to different feet. Pause the video, factorize and solve, and then unpause when you're done. So we have both swapped the socks and we have unpaused the video. Here we go then. So the first thing to do is to multiply together those outside numbers with the method that we've got. And 12 4s are 48, but of course it's negative, so it's negative 48. I'm going to find the factor pairs for 48, which is 1 times 48. It is 2 times whatever half of 48 is, which is 24. It is 3 times, is it 16? I think it is 3 times 16, isn't it? Because 3, 16. Yes, 3 times 16. And also 4 times 12. And 6 eighths of 48 as well. Okay, now of course we're trying to make a negative number. So one of my numbers might be negative. And actually to save a bit of time, hopefully you found that the pair that you're after is the one with negative 3 but positive 16. Those two numbers add up together to make positive 13, but multiply together to make negative 48. So I'm going to first of all write, and I like doing it in a different colours because this isn't strictly my answer, but it does help me get there. Remember, you take that coefficient of the x squared and you put it with x, and you put it with each of these numbers in some double brackets. So we've got 12x in both, and you've got minus, dear me, that is a terrible x. Minus 3 and then plus 16. Okay, it's just the two numbers I've found. Now that's not my answer because if I expand that out, I will end up with 144x squared, which is clearly not right. So one or both of these will need to simplify. Now this one, look, both of these numbers in this bracket are divisible by 3. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to divide by 3 to get 4x take away 1. And this bracket, can we simplify this one? Yes, they both divide by 4, don't they? So we can divide that one by 4 to get 3x, and we can divide this one by 4 to get 4. Okay, now my expression is, or my equation is factorized. And then I'm going to try and make each bracket equal 0, one at a time. Well, this is going to happen, well, let's see, let's add 1 to both sides, and then let's divide by 4. So there's one of my answers, which is x equals a quarter. And the other one, 3x plus 4 equals 0. Let's make this one equal 0. Well, let's take away 4 from both sides first of all, and then divide by the 3. So we've got negative 4 over 3, or you might have written negative 1 1/3. Probably best not to write that one as a decimal, although the first one could be. Let's put a little squidgy line down there to separate my answers. And the second one, so we multiply together the outside numbers to get 30, and I find factor pairs for 30, which is 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10, and 5 times 6. And which pair adds together to make 13? Well, that would be the 3 and the 10. So that helps me get towards my answer. It isn't my answer, but it does help me get towards it. And I take the coefficient of x squared, and I put that in a bracket with x with my two numbers, and it's positive 3 and 6x with positive 10. And that helps me get there, but I need to obviously do a bit of simplifying here, because 6x times 6x would make 36x squared, which clearly isn't right. This one will simplify because I can divide by 3. So I have then 2x plus 1. And this one, we can divide both of those numbers by 2. So let's do that to get 3x plus 5. And that equals 0. And then I can solve. Let's make each bracket equal 0 in turn. Let's take away 1 from both sides and then divide it by the 2. So x equals minus a half is one answer. And then let's make this bracket equal 0. Let's take away 5 from both sides. So 0. And then divide that by the 3. So x equals negative a half, or x equals negative 5 over 3, which you might have written as a mixed number, which is negative 1 2/3, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Right. Anyway, so let's move on to what we're going to do today. It's this. Now, let's remind ourselves first of all about the coefficients, and those are the posh name for the numbers in each of the positions in our equation. The coefficient of x squared is the number touching x squared. The coefficient of x is the number touching x, and then just we have the ordinary number on its own. And we're going to use the formula this time. Okay, now the formula looks like this. It is minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, where b is the coefficient of x, a is the coefficient of x squared, and c is the number on its own. You need to learn this formula, right? After a while, it just becomes second nature to know it, but you need to practice it. My advice to all my students is always just, and I mean this, every day, either just as you wake up or just as you go to bed, just write it out. And if you can't remember it, you'll have to look it up. And if you do that every day, after a while, you'll be able to just say to yourself, minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And it will just come out like that. But you do need to learn it. I'd also say, if we're going to solve these, I'd always write out what a equals, what b equals, and what c equals. It's a good habit to get into. So a in this case is 5, b is 4, and c is negative 12. And do be careful with those negatives, that's where most people go wrong. We're going to use a calculator today, but I am going to write it out to show you what I mean. So if we're writing out a formula, we'll have negative 4 plus or minus, and I'll come to what that means in a minute, the square root of b squared. Now b is 4, so we'll just do 4 squared, take away 4 times by a times by, now c is a negative number, so I'm going to drop it in there in a bracket. Now if you do that in your calculator, it manages to do all the dirty work for you. So if you've got a negative number that you're substituting in, put it in a bracket. And that's all over 2 times a, which is 5. Now you can go through and work all of that out on your own and get to the point where you don't need to do too much work. And actually, let's do that this time. Sometimes it's just, if you're using a calculator, you might as well type it all in, and I will do that for the rest of the question, but let's just do this. Right, firstly, 4 squared is 16. Let's just write that up here. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 times by negative 12 is going to be, well, 2 lots of 12 is 24, so it's 240. Now look, we're taking away a negative here, so actually that turns into a positive, so it turns into 256. So we have got the square root here of 256 all over 2 times 5, which is 10. Now the reason we have plus and minus is because you use the equation twice. So once you'll go through and do the calculation using a plus, and we'll see what answer we get there. And the second time we will go through, I've just realised I need to move this all over here. And second time we'll go through, not with the plus, we shall go with a minus. Oh dear, come back here. Come back there, eraser, that's what we meant. Need the eraser. We'll go through, yeah, with a minus. And that's how we get the two answers that we probably will have for our equation. All right, and just because I know this is going to take some time, but just because I was a bit of an idiot and I put it in the wrong place, and I want to show you a graph in a minute, I'm just going to write that there. So we do it once with plus, we do it once with minus. Let's just get rid of all this, and that will give us the two answers. Okay. Now I can't remember off the top of my head what the square root of 256 is, so I'm going to put it in my calculator. Minus 4. Plus the square root of 2 divided by that equals 1.2. So one of the answers is 1.2. And then let's do it again with the minus 256 divided by the 10 equals minus 2. And so my other answer is minus 2. Now notice, let's just put a little circle around there. Notice how I don't change the signs on these. When we're factorising, we're quite often we end up with the reverse signs, don't we? But these we don't. The formula answers it for you. Now I just want to show you something about what the answers to this equation are. Now firstly, I'm going to graph this equation. Notice this is just my equation, but instead of equaling 0, it just equals y. And that means that I can graph it. And the graph of the quadratic equation looks like this. And they are usually this kind of characteristic U shape. And look, notice that it goes through the x-axis here. And notice what points it goes through the x-axis. That one is minus 2. And that one is 1.2. So that's when we're solving a quadratic equation. That's what we're actually doing. We're finding the x-coordinate of where our graph goes through the x-axis. That's what they are. They're sometimes also called the roots of the equation. All right, the roots, like a tree. I mean, it looks nothing like a tree. I have no idea why it's called roots, but they call it roots as well. But if you're solving, you're finding the roots of the equation. All right? Okay, let's try another one. I'll go a bit quicker this time. And I'm just going to write out the equation twice in full. So first of all, let's write out what A equals, what B equals, and what C equals. A is 2, B is 2, and C is negative 2. So if I was writing out my equation, it would be negative 2 plus, let's do it once with plus, once with minus, and we've got B squared. Why am I writing B? I don't know. I know what B is. I don't need to write B. Foolish man. Where are we? The pen. Blue. Right, so B is 2, isn't it? So it's going to be 2 squared minus 4 times by the value of A times by the value of C. And C, again, is a negative number. It's not always, but it is this time. So put it in a bracket, and your calculator will do all the hard work. And then 2 times by A, which is 2. Okay? And then we'll go through once again, and we'll do negative 2 minus all of that kerfuffle. Yeah, times by, and again, I'll put the negative 2 in a bracket, all over 2 times by 2. Okay, so let's do that. Let's have negative 2, and I'm going to set it up as a fraction on my calculator. You can just put it all in one go. Negative 2. First of all, we'll do it with plus, and I'll show you a little sneaky thing you can do in a minute. 2 squared, take away 4 times by 2 times by brackets negative 2. And then underneath, 2 times 2. And so the first solution on here, now it gives me a weird kind of thing. Now on my calculator, if you've got one of these nice posh calculators, you'll have this as well. It initially gives me the answer like this. Now this is what we call surd form, which is, it's got the surd in it. It's got that root 5. And if I press SD, it tells me that 0.6, and I'm going to do 2 decimal places, so 0.62 is my first solution. Now, if you use the cursors and go back, you don't actually need to type the whole equation again. You can just go back and change that plus just before the square root, change it for a minus, and then it very quickly gives you the new answer, which is negative 1.62. So my other answer is negative 1.62. Sometimes the decimals might look similar, sometimes they don't. And again, if I was going to graph this, it would be y equals my equation. And the graph for this particular one looks like this. And look, here's my 2 answers. There's the negative 1.62, and there's the positive 0.62. So it does work. It shows you where that graph goes through the x-axis. Just to be clear, here are my 2 answers. Right, okay. Definitely your turn. I want you to do this one, please. Pause the video. When you've done it, write down the answers to 2 decimal places, and then unpause, and we'll see if we agree. Off you go. Okay, now we've unpaused, and you won't realise this, but I've actually switched my socks back to the original feet, so the minions are back on the original feet. Okay, nice bit of trivia there for you. Right, what we got here? We've got A equals 3. Why do I struggle to write 3s on here? No idea why. Let's try that again. A equals 3. I think it's because I go too quickly. B equals 5. C equals 1. And let's go through the equation. Let's write it out. twice. So negative 5, because it's minus b. Now, if this is an interesting point, if b was a negative number anyway, when you then do negative b, it would become a positive. You don't need to write negative, negative, whatever. All right? But in this case, it's positive anyway. Then plus, we'll do it once with plus, once with minus. 5 squared, take away 4, times by a, which is 3, times by c, which is 1. I don't need to put those in brackets this time because none of them are negative. But if they are, put them in a bracket, please, because it helps your calculator get everything right. And then we'll go through again, and we'll do it again, but with a negative this time. Times by 3, times by 1, all over 2 times by 3. I bet the tension where you are is unbearable. I bet you're thinking, oh, I wonder if I've got it right. I hope I've got it right. Otherwise, Sir's going to be really cross with me. He's just going to be disappointed and tut. 4 times 3 times 1, and that's all over 2 times 3. Again, it gives me the third answer. Press SD, and it tells me my first one is 0.23 to 2 decimal places. So that's my first answer. And then the second one, if I use the cursors, I don't need to type it all back in again. I just need to go and change that sign in front of the square root. Change it to a negative. Press SD. And I've got minus 1.43. So my other answer is x equals minus 1.43. Okay, so there's my two answers. There. Yep, negative 0.23 and minus 1.43. Okay, right. Time to do a little bit of practice now for yourself. I'm not going to do the working out for the next ones. I'm just going to show the answers at the end. I don't think I drew a graph for this one. Oh, we did draw a graph for this one, that we can check it out. Awesome. Good. Okay, and again, look at these 2 points. Look, that is negative 1.43, and this one is negative 0.23. So they're both the left-hand side of the origin of that 0, 0 point, aren't they? Yeah, so that's what the roots are. Remember, they're called roots, like a tree. Like a quadratic tree. Anyway, here we are with some questions for you to do. Do these ones, please. Press pause, use your calculator, write out the answers to 2 decimal places, and I'll show you the answers in just a second. Off you go. Unpaused. Did you pause? Did you cheat? No, of course you didn't cheat. You're amazing. Here are the answers then. So for the first one, you should get 0.41 and negative 2.41, then 0.87 and negative 2.87, and then 1.45 and negative 3.45, and then 1.19 and negative 4.19, and then negative 0.29 and negative 1.71. Okay, well done if you got all of those right. Good stuff. Okay, 2 more for you to do. This time, this is just a couple of little problems, really. It's the same thing. I want you to, again, just solve it. Find the roots of the equation using the formula. So use your calculator. But, you know, they're written, well, you figure it out. Pause the video and off you go. Okay, we've unpaused. Or if you haven't paused, pause it now. Quick, go back. All right. Okay, let's see then. I've got 2 answers for you, but how did I get to those? Well, you need to rearrange your equation first. So you need to, first of all, take 3 away from both sides. So you get 3x squared take away 3, which equals, and of course that cancels out to leave negative 5x. And then if you add 5x to both sides, not necessarily in that order, of course, that will cancel out there, and you're left with 3x squared plus 5x minus 3 equals 0, because they must equal 0 for you to be able to do it. Now remember, in this case, A has the value of 3, B has the value of 5, and C has the value of negative 3, and then you get these 2 answers there, that one and that one. For this one, okay, is this a quadratic equation? Well, of course it is. If you expand it out, so multiply everything by x in the bracket, you get 4x squared plus 3x equals 5. And then, of course, we take 5 away from both sides. That will cancel out to leave 4 x squared plus 3x, take away 5 equals 0. And then you've got your three values. A equals 4, B equals 3, and C equals -5. Okay? And the answers for that one are x equals 0.80. When you round it to two decimal places, there's a 9 here that gets rounded up to a 10 essentially, so it knocks on to make 80. And you need the 0, because it's to two decimal places, you need to show both decimal places. And then -1.55. Great. Brilliant. You are amazing. Well done. I might have set you another task if I felt that this video is not long enough, but I didn't set a timer, so I'm not sure how long it is, but we'll decide. So it'll be in the Show My Homework post if you need to do another task. Okay. Otherwise, well done. Let your calculator cool down for a minute, and I'll see you next time.